Hello friends, and welcome to your Saturday night review. Tonight I'm not reviewing anything particularly heavy, because I'm going to be doing a bad beer review later tonight. Well, not really bad, but let's just say it's a Macrolager, a famous one. But anyways, I'm going to do an interesting review today, because I'm going to be talking a little bit about Mexican beers. So, Mexican beers. One thing that comes to mind is Corona, Pacifico. Stick a lime inside, drink it up, pretend that you're not drinking something that tastes like a skunk pissed in it. So, Mexican beers, amongst beer connoisseurs, do have sort of a bad reputation. And that is somewhat deserved, because the most famous Mexican beer is, of course, Corona, which comes in clear bottles, which means almost all Corona that you buy is light-struck and thus horribly tasting, unless you go and squeeze some lime in it. Now, it wouldn't be so bad if Corona was not premium priced. As it is, you gotta go and have some respect for the Corona's marketers, because Corona is pretty much one of the most popular beers in America, despite the fact that it's god-awful. And people are paying, an extra buck or two per six-pack for that god-awfulness. But not all Mexican Macrolagers are horrible. So tonight I'm going to be reviewing one of the two Mexican beers that I like, and I'm going to be doing this one because it's actually a little bit harder to find than the other beer, and it tends to go better with Mexican food than the other beer. And the other beer, I'm of course referring to Negra Modelo, which is a dark Vienna lager, or Dunkelweizen. I've heard it classified both ways. But Bohemia, Cerveza Bohemia, is a classic German-style Pilsner that is to the style. And at the same time, being a Pilsner, it has all the refreshing qualities that a fizzy yellow Pilsner should have. Now, that means you can have it with spicy food, fajitas, whatnot. That's kind of a little bit off when you have the darker Negra Modelo. Now, with this beer, oh goodness, I'm blurry again. With this beer, what you want to be doing, put it up close, yay, and slowly bring it back. Yeah, that's how you get into focus. With this beer, you don't want to stick a lime in it. That's kind of an insult, because, like I said, this is to the style. Now, you can usually find this at Whole Foods or any other place that has a very large beer selection, because it is a macro lager. It is distributed nationwide. It just doesn't have the same reach that other Mexican beers do, which is kind of a shame, because, like I said, this is the best Mexican beer. There are some Mexican craft breweries, but they don't distribute to America, and pretty much you have to go to Mexico to try them. So let's pour this out. Okay. So, it's a bright, clear yellow, slightly darker than other Pilsners I've seen, but still a bright, clear yellow, with a foamy, quickly receding head. And a very good Pilsner smell. This one is a lot more floral and sweet than you usually would expect with a Pilsner. It has a bit more crisper snap to it. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. And like I said, that sort of thing would probably be good with spicy food. This one's not too old, by the way. So I kind of lucked out. This was on the, single shelf at Whole Foods, where they go and break up six-packs. They're getting kind of old to sell singly. But this one is not age-tasting. Very clean up front. You know, nice good carbonation bite in the middle. Now this is, I think it's a little bit less hopped than most German-style Pilsners would be. The noble hops are still there. Sorry, I went down the wrong pipe there. But there's a much more sweeter, honeyed taste to the finish, which is okay. It's still fairly crisp. So not perfect cleanness to the finish, but that's okay because, like I said, you want this with food. You're not going to be drinking it, you know, by itself. And this is still refreshing. Now, like I said, this is really striking because when most people think of Mexican beer, you think of something that's barely drinkable by itself. You could drink this by itself. It's not going to knock you out of the park like a good Pilsner would, like an excellent Pilsner would, but it is a good Pilsner. It is a Pilsner that suffices, and it's a fairly cheap Pilsner for Mexico. Interestingly enough, the main bitterness of the hops just kind of pops up in the mid-palate and kind of fades quickly. And of course, that's sort of characteristic of all Macrolagers. They tend not to have a strong hop finish. It's still slightly bitter, but the bitterness is kind of in the middle there. Of course, I'm calling this a Macrolager because it's a lager brewed by a macro brewing company, but as I kind of emphasize, this is still very quality. So if you see this at a Mexican restaurant, this is what you want with your spicy food. Now, afterwards, or say if you have something with a mole sauce, I would definitely go with Negro Modelo if you're having something with a mole sauce. Something with a red sauce or green sauce, this would go. This is what you would have. So generally most things that you would have at a Mexican restaurant, you would want Pilsner, hence this, if it's available. Now, like I said, it's not as available as other Pilsners are, as other Mexican beers are. So what you would want to do if it's not available, I usually end up going for Dos Equis Ambar, which is serviceable. And Negro Modelo if it's not going to be too horrifically contrasty with what you're eating. Because Negro Modelo is pretty... most Mexican restaurants will carry Negro Modelo. Stay away from the Corona, stay away from the Pacifico. If you find Victoria, I haven't tried Victoria yet, but I've heard it's good. It's even harder to find than Bohemia. It is really hard to believe this is brewed in Mexico because it's just so clean tasting. And so close to, you know, true European style. I can't emphasize it enough. If you get a chance to try this, please try this. It's one of those things that kind of goes to prove that not all Macrolagers are horrible or mediocre. Some of them are quite good. So, that's your beer review for tonight, folks. Prost and salud.